Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename New to Vero 2, the Gen X for Gen X channel. I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. Well, currently, we just wrapped up San Diego Comic-Con. There was a lot of great unveils that came up on stage. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU with a twist. We also had Wolverine Deadpool hit the big screen. I think it was really good. It was something that Marvel needed. I don't think it was as great as it, but at the same time, it was a very big improvement from the offerings as of late. And also, we just wrapped up the Acolyte series on Disney Plus. Boy, what a clusterfuck that was! And I do watch this stuff. I can't help it. But here's the thing. I'm going to say some negative stuff about Star Wars. I'm sorry, but it just seems like they're like the fan base, these millennial Gen Zs, as well as Lucasfilms, these writers that they're hiring, all this stuff. It's like they're trying to out Star Wars. Star Wars. It doesn't make any sense because Star Wars are proven time after time tales that are classics that are kind of repackaged into what we saw for us that actually went to the theaters in 1977, 1981, and 1983 for those three iconic movies. See, Star Wars is actually also a reflection of the time it was filmed, the whole era. The Wizard of Oz wouldn't be the Wizard of Oz if it was made in the 90s or now in 2024. So it was Judy Garland. It was, all that technologies, it was a product of the era it was filmed in. Same thing with Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa would just be some girl, but the fact that that painting took place, with Da Vinci in that time period is why it is Mona Lisa. That's how art works. But with that said, all that negative stuff, I wanted to showcase something fun. Um, and I know like the prequels have kind of, but at the same time, they were done by the original person who created it. So it's kind of like now looking back, hey, it's his mess still. So that's what makes it redeemable in some sense. And we just looked at this Walkman recently, the F2065. Did a whole revisit of this iconic model that was released in 1990, 1991, and how it still holds up today. The build quality, the sound that comes out of it is absolutely amazing. So we're going to actually test it on this. I picked up the episode 1 soundtrack on cassette. This is basically a brand new cassette. The guy told me that he just had it in storage in his air conditioned, not in a car or anything like that. And I put it into this Walkman, the one that we did in open box. Like, this is a 1995 Walkman FX221, brand new. We did this during the pandemic. We opened it. I couldn't believe I found one, and we opened it, and it is amazing. So the sound quality on this is absolutely amazing. It beats, I'm sorry, Swifties, I'm sorry, Bieber fans, and you streaming people. It destroys. I mean, the sound quality is just amazing on this. But the important thing I wanted to go through with you guys is actually looking through the sleeve. See, you don't get that with streaming music today. Music for us back in the 80s and 90s and 70s or what have you was a total experience. It required all the senses, and that's what made music so important, so much fun for us back in the day. So we're going to go through this fun, simple, quick video and kind of see what's the contents and all the nice little tidbits you could get in the cassette. So let's dive in. Alrighty, so I actually I pulled the cassette out of the Walkman because it just dawned on me that there's going to be some people that stumble upon this video who have no idea or have never seen a cassette before in their life. And that I think is hilarious. So, this is what a cassette is. We're going to start basic 101. So, this is an audio cassette player, or audio cassette, I'm sorry. Now, just to give you the basics, this is an analog, because it has tape in it. It has 4 tracks actually. So side 1 will have track 1 and 2, and side B will have tracks 3 and 4. Now this makes sense when you're a musician and you're recording music. For example, guitars will be on track 1, vocals will be on track 2, drums will be on track 3, bass will be on track 4. That's basically it. And it's all one-sided though, but for this is a two-sided cassette. Now, to record music onto a cassette, usually you have to have a master. So a master is basically where the artist, like let's say Motley Crue, for example, they'll record in a studio and they'll record onto a master recording. And all these tapes and stuff are copies of that master. Now, if you remember a couple years ago, there was a big fire in LA at AMC where a whole bunch of masters like Soundgarden, like Rage Against the Machine, I think even Pearl Jam were destroyed. So that was a big deal because they have to go back and re-record those albums again and make a new master. And that's a big deal. That's a big expensive process because that's studio time. That's that's pretty big deal for that to lose all those. And that's a timestamp of that when they recorded it. Like, they recorded their voice was different. I mean, with Nirvana, you can't do it again because Kurt Cobain is no longer here. So that's why that was a big deal. And now it's like digital to digital, but towards the end, it was digital to analog. So that's the type, just to give you a nutshell of it. Now, what makes cassettes and CDs so much fun is the literature that accompanies it. See, streaming, you just put like what, $1, and then it downloads to your phone or what have you. But back in the day, we used to go to record stores and we would buy the albums, and then you would sit there as you're listening to the music, digest all the contents that came with your music. So this one is really actually interesting because you have all of these, you have Little Anakin. Here you have the Duel of Fates, Queen Amidala, Darth Maul, some scenes from the movie, which is cool, as well as some things from George Lucas and John Williams himself. I'm going to read the John Williams passage because it's actually interesting and I learned some stuff too. And also something that the reason why Star Wars back then is way better than Star Wars now. So here we go. It says, while recently recording the music for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, with the London Symphony Orchestra, I was delighted to see that there were a dozen or so members of the orchestra who had played on the original 1977 soundtrack. Isn't that cool? All those years later, there were people that were still around that played on that original score. During our first intermission, several of the younger players approached me and explained that as children, they had seen and heard Star Wars, and immediately resolved to study music with the goal of playing with the London Symphony. That right there is the big difference between Star Wars then and Star Wars now. See, back then, it inspired people into so many different fields, be it engineering, electronics, aerospace, even music. And that's what modern Star Wars does not do. And that's the big problem, is everyone is into, inspires them to be a TikToker, a YouTuber. Come on. That's not the same. at least with these professions, there's some sense of benefiting society, not just getting likes and shares. That is the big difference between Star Wars. So I think that's kind of cool that John Williams pointed that out. Now, as far as George Lucas, he says, I like to think of the Star Wars films as silent movies, movies whose stories are carried forward visually and by a musical score. It took the musical genius of John Williams to fully realize this vision. His brilliant scores brought the original trilogy to life beyond my wildest dreams. But John's astounding success made composing the score for Episode 1 a daunting task. Gone were so many of the characters and situations that his music now undeniably evokes. So, like Princess Leia's score. So what he's basically saying is like now he has to apply it to a whole set of new characters and carry that same effort. So that is a big task now that you think about it. So those are a little bit tidbits there. Then you'll also see that, all right, music composed and conducted by John Williams, performed by the London Symphony Orchestra. Music words, the the voice, London voices, and the New London Children's Choir. I didn't know that. Album produced by John Williams. Then it tells you like the location, who's a director of all their respective. So it's giving credit to everybody, credit due, and I think that's pretty damn cool. But then let's see inside. So here are all the side 1, side 2, some more pictures, stuff that happens in the movie. See, this is what you would do as you're listening to this stuff. And I think we lost that. We lost convenience, quality over convenience with streaming versus digital. As I mentioned before, we also lost knowing our music, getting familiar with our music. And I think that's why these songs today, in the past 10 years, they're just like commercial jingles. They're not like, here today, gone tomorrow. They don't endure like these things have. Like, I got Motley Crue's album right here. Like, this thing still stands out, So, anyway, I thought that was a little fun video. So we'll put everything back. I'm trying reaching over the camera while I'm doing it. So there you go. And then when you want to listen to music, you just, pop it in. And then you just put in your cassette player. And there you go. Crank up the volume, crank up the bass, and you have it. Anyway, this is Shabu Are You. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode.